Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our spoiler-filled review and discussion for Netflix's Stranger Things Season 4, Volume 2. Yeah, I kinda stole your look, kid. What do you think? Bitchin'. Surf's up, my dudes! My name is Nate, and this is our spoiler-filled review and discussion for Netflix's Stranger Things Season 4, Volume 2. Before we get started, if you're joining us for the first time, we are Geekcentric, a podcast focusing on the world of movies, TV shows, games, toys, and collectibles, and all things geek-centric. Joining me for this deep dive into the Upside Down, we've got a level 20 high elf paladin who's neutral lawful with a hankering for some Eggo waffles. He's J-Law the Brave.
Why, hello.
What up, my dude? I'm loving your
Not
fit,
much,
my
dude.
Dude.
Oh.
We're just going to keep doing that throughout the whole podcast. I'm so sorry. Joining us straight out of the gate in my bathroom, he's a level 15 half-orc barbarian who also partakes in Purple Palm Tree Delight. He's Kevin, the Demigorgon Crusher Hudson.
Still love it, but I will say pineapple is never okay on pizza.
Ah, dude, try before you deny, my guy. You gotta try before you deny. And here to roll more than just a D20, we've got a level 11 Kensei monk with a hairdo that's ready for the most metal. Like Taylor, he's Darcy the Swift. How you doing, bud?
I'm good. I'm upset the fact that pineapple on pizza is a Canadian thing. That was
I'm
unfortunately
ashamed.
something
Our worst contribution to the world.
Absolutely incorrect. I think everyone should try before they deny. I think the pineapple. We've had this discussion actually recently on the podcast. But guys, how are we all doing after that finale? Are we still alive? All of us are alive. Yes, we've double checked.
Too many of us are still alive, but
okay. Jeez, I'm a little afraid now.
dark.
Yeah. But listen, before we piggyback from a pizza dough freezer to get into a mind fight to save our friends, I wanted to ask you guys before we really get into it, considering the incredible shows like Ozark, The Queen's Gambit, Arcane, Squid Game, Black Mirror, Master of None, and others that we've gotten from Netflix, I wanted to ask each of you, including this season of Stranger Things, is it the best show on Netflix, in your opinion?
It's definitely the one that I'm always excited for when the next season's coming out. Like there are other shows that I'm like, oh, it's been out for a month now, I guess I can watch it. But Stranger Things is one that I always tend to count down the days still. So yeah, it definitely stands out in my books.
It's the event. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I think from a fandom standpoint, it is probably the single best show that they have. It draws in a very large audience. So I would say if you're looking at the best based on success, yeah, I think Stranger Things is it. It really has superseded and extended itself far reaching than some of the other series that you've mentioned.
Yeah, I think it maybe has the most mass widespread appeal going for it. Other shows are very specific to a certain genre. And a lot of these really excellent shows on Netflix over the years have all been more drama than anything. And I think there's just so much going on with a show like Stranger Things that it's more than just it's so much more than just a sci-fi show or a horror show. There's teen adventure and romance, and I just think it's got the most going for it in terms of widespread appeal. And I do think of all the shows, I would rank it even above something like an Ozark. Shows that I've really liked in the past. I do think this is certainly Netflix's crown jewel over all the years. And I think after this season, with the epic scale that they went to for this, it felt like one of the biggest TV shows I've ever seen. And therefore I'd put it up there in that top 5 echelon of greatest streaming platform shows of all time.
Wow. That description, Kevin, I gotta say, like, for me, it was up there with Ozark. It was battling. There was a mind battle in my mind between the two, and I gotta say, just based off of what you're describing there, the fact that yes, Ozark as a drama is absolutely phenomenal, but the fact that we're able to get so much out of Stranger Things with how sort of diverse it is, and especially, obviously we're going to be getting into it, but just so much that it brings to the table, especially at this point in season 4. I think it's the best thing on Netflix.
Yes, I swayed you to my side.
Yes. Yeah, you're pretty much Vecna in my eyes.
You're Kevna.
You're Kevna. Yeah, almost as intimidating. So, guys, let's get right to it. I'm going to skip a description this time around. Obviously, people know what the show's about if you're listening at this point, and who it's starring. Obviously, again, this is spoiler filled. So this is your last warning. If you are literally just counting down the seconds here, if you haven't watched the finale, or even I would say this season of Stranger Things, back out now, go watch all of it. We'll see you in 4 days or however long it takes to watch, and we'll get back to it with you. But listen, with selfless hearts and a clash of metal, heroes fight from every corner of the battlefield to save Hawkins and the world itself. Guys, let's get into our initial thoughts. I'd love to hear what your initial thoughts are of episode 8 and the finale. Just some sort of generalized thoughts, very light. What did you think of these last 2 episodes?
Yeah, I think Volume 2 delivers on the promises of Volume 1. It was epic in scope and action. It really did up the ante.
Yeah.
The emotional stakes were there, and there were some really heartfelt moments and reunions that were 9 episodes in the making. So
yeah.
it set up some big things for season 5, and I was very, very happy with it. I think my only gripe, and we can elaborate later, is I think the release strategy of this whole series. I think that there could have been maybe a different approach that they could have gone for, but that being said, it doesn't take away from just how great this 4th season is.
Totally.
I'll even start my point here on the release strategy, just in that I think so much happened in these 2 episodes when you compare it to the first 7. You could almost say as much happened just in these last 2 episodes as happened in the first 7. And that's why I enjoyed them so much. I think they justified their runtime by just being cram-packed with so much stuff going on. And then I think my biggest complaint, because we all loved those first 7 episodes when we talked about them, but, if I were to nitpick anything, it was that I felt the focus wasn't evenly distributed enough amongst the characters. And here they did such a good job. I totally understand that 11 is the main character and is the central focus, but you need to spend time with those other characters so that you can appreciate what she's fighting for. And so that culmination in this episode of just reminding you why we've cared about these characters for so long, not just this season and not just in the last 2 episodes here, but for 4 years or 4 seasons. I just think the attention to all the characters here made everything and the stakes feel that much more important and that much more drastic. Now, the fact that it really doesn't seem to affect them at the end of the day is something I might get into at the end here. The plot armor's getting a little thick.
A little thick. Darcy, what about you?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Kev where these last episodes, it made me care more about some of the storylines that I felt were going on a bit too long or just felt kind of clunky. Like the whole California storyline, even parts of the Russia one were just okay, I understand you're just trying to stretch it out so that we could get this big finale where they all work together. And the way that they worked them together worked out so well that again, it made me appreciate that storyline more now because of the payout from it. So definitely, I definitely loved that aspect of it. And again, I didn't really get to talk about my 7 for the audience. My opinion is on the first 7 with the audience, but my one big takeaway was the fact that the pacing felt kind of weird. And then, like Kevin said, that these 4 hours basically for the last 2 episodes were so packed that there wasn't a good time to stop. I just watched it 4 hours in a row and it's this was awesome. So it was an event, right? I think we've been kind of circling around that, and I think episode 8, beautiful episode. I think it really does some really good jobs of wrapping up certain storylines so we could move quickly into the finale. It was just so. Episode 9 was so epic in scale. I love how they sort of changed the aspect ratio, kept it so cinematic. I honestly, I was sitting on the edge of my seat for the full 2.5 hours for the most part, just kind of my head racing of they're gonna die. Oh, now she's gonna die. Oh, he's definitely gonna die. And just kind of going through it, and
There was just so much on the line, and I think that added to it in terms of like how much I was on the edge of my seat for that time, and it just kept me enthralled. Like you said, Darcy, there's not even a good time to sort of stop and get up and go pee. You're just like, I just want to keep watching. But I wanted to kind of also start off, just like how most of these episodes do, with talking about the music. I think this season, for me, I think had my favorite soundtrack of all the seasons. I think, obviously, everyone's talking about Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush and how we can't get it out of our heads. Thank goodness, because it'll protect us from Vecna. But, dude, I just thought it was phenomenal the entire season, from the Beach Boys to Kiss. We got Metallica in there at the end, and it's just so varied. But it also... It felt fun and it felt fitting. Every single song felt like it fit perfectly with where it was. And at no point in time did it feel like I was like in some projects, it's like, oh, there's too much music or there's not enough. I thought this was just really perfectly well done.
I think the other thing too I loved is how they brought in the score at times. And the
dude.
score was very much the underlining music in the personal character moments,
Yes.
the one-on-one moments that happened. There was just a nice balance of how they weaved in the score amongst all of these popular tracks. I thought it was flawless.
Yeah, man. Kyle Dixon and Michael Stein, shout out to them. Both, by the way, the soundtrack and the album with the original scores are now streaming. So definitely check those out. Probably my favorite track that you got to listen to, it's going to bring a tear to your eye potentially, is Letter to Willie, which is the song that plays when Dustin is telling Eddie's uncle about his death. And it's such a lovely track. And as you said, Justin, they do such a good job at filling in those character moments, those moments between the two of them, between, those heartfelt moments.
Two people. Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. I loved it.
Yeah, no, the use of even just, like the main theme was done in a really unique way for this season, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And all I'll add is I've never heard of them before, but I have a feeling after this, Metallica is going to be trending worldwide for the first time in their careers.
So many people on TikTok, all the little kids on TikTok, like, oh, have you heard about this Metallica before? It's incredible. Oh my!
It was a wicked song, like perfect song for that moment, in my opinion, because like that's something that was teased in the trailer, and I myself, being a fan of the music, very much a fan of the music that Eddie listens to and loves and stuff like that, was just like, what is he shredding to right there? And Master of the Puppets was a perfect fitting thing. And I think a lot of the songs like we're talking about fit, like when they do play the popular music, it fit the tone so well. And it's just because that era was so diverse as a musical era and stuff like that, because you had hair metal, you had the pop and the synths and all that stuff. So it was a really interesting time of like so many sounds. So it was really cool that they could pick the songs from that era and then put them in no problem, because that's what that era was all about. It was about the disco with the synth, with the metal, with everything. So
yeah, and they bring in some California as well, like with the Safaris and Wipeout and all that stuff. And I think especially when we talk about like Argyle and all those moments, like we had some good stuff in there as well. I think, what's that one? Past the what is it called? Past the
Duchy.
Past the Duchy, dude.
On the left-hand side, bud.
On the left-hand side. I know. Listen, I might have had a bit too much of that Duchy, so I've forgotten a lot of it. But speaking of how the music emphasized the performances, were there any performances that were just absolutely stand out for you, like between this entire cast?
I'll just jump in and say it that I think the emotional resonance you got from Noah Schnapp as he's urging Mike on to do the right thing, and as they're going, that his performance in the van there is just unbelievable. I've always felt I could feel him as an actor, just like his character, always being sort of pushed to the back and never given much to work with. I mean, he's not in the show for half of it for the first couple of years, but here he really got that big standout moment for him as an actor, and I think he absolutely killed it.
Yeah, and just going off that too, Charlie Heaton and how Jonathan even was noticing stuff going on there. That whole moment was so beautifully scripted that all the actors really had a chance to shine and show so much vulnerability and just a connection. Like, again, you saw that leads to later on with Jonathan talking to Will later at the pizza place, saying like, "I miss talking to you. I'm always here for you." And it's like, all these moments lead into such great things. Like these actors really care about the characters, and you can tell in their performance. It was blown away by that stuff.
Yeah, now that you bring that up, I'm thinking back to the last two episodes. Every single character in this cast got a moment to shine. Like pretty much every single character, whether they were a good character or a villain or whatever, got a moment to shine. And I think that speaks to that sort of pacing and how well it was spread out, like you were referring to, Kevin.
Again, like you said, Nate, everyone got their moment to shine. I think throughout the entire season, though, I think Sadie Sink was absolutely fantastic.
Oh my gosh.
I loved how this season served as sort of a sequel to the events of last season for her in the loss of her brother. Yeah. And I think it really does highlight how, she's dealing with the trauma of those events, and it sort of manifested itself as this tool that Vecna could exploit and feed off of. She gave us very emotional portrayals, and as we see her sort of weakened and scared and trying to reconnect with her friends through this fear, and it just made for some really compelling acting and just helping to elevate the story. It left me feeling overly empathetic for her character, even as we get to the end and see her sort of sacrifice herself. So
yeah, I think I said it on our spoiler free for Volume 1 that there was a moment in her performance that made me well up, and it was the moment when Max is running away from Vecna back to her friends through that open door, and she's they embrace her and they all hug her at the end, and that just completely got to me. And I think we get to then see it again with Caleb McLaughlin as Lucas this time, but it's just him in the room and he's holding her, and it's just like the way he screams out for Erica, and just like she's obviously not there, but he's not even thinking in that moment. Apparently that line was improvised as well, which is really awesome. And it just, dude, I think the entire cast stepped it up. And I also just wanted to shout out, obviously, our star Millie Bobby Brown. I think the scene where she's saying goodbye to Papa was probably the best performance I've ever seen from Millie Bobby Brown in general. The look on her face of sadness mixed with disdain and anger at the same time, I couldn't even imagine trying to do that as an actor. So I just thought it was so well done, and especially for a character like her, who 11 doesn't really have a sort of diverse dialogue as much, obviously, just the way her character is and the way she was raised. And so I think getting to see this emotion through her was so powerful. It was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I think, Kevin, you kind of hinted at it. Like the season very much establishes that Elle is the center of this story and of what's going on with these events. And, Millie puts her heart into this performance and takes the character, I think, to new emotional levels here that really, as you're pointing out, Nate, just kind of show how much she's evolved as an actor and as a character in this story. And we see that really take center stage as she finds herself through her trauma. She's really coming to understand her powers as a curse. She's starting to understand it through the trauma. But in the end, in these final episodes, we really do see her kind of get a pep talk from Mike that she can be a hero. She can use those powers to be the hero that he knows and that they all know who she is. Because I think in some ways she feels very much responsible for the events, obviously, that have happened to Hawkins, that her friends and everyone are in jeopardy of. So she feels the need to have to protect them. So I think in this moment, her stepping through and kind of finding the courage to face off against Vecna was great. Like it actually had a real payoff to it.
Yeah, and I think as much as she is the central character, Eleven's almost one of the least interesting characters, just because of how simplistic the character is, at least from the beginning. And you guys said that she's undergone this evolution of a character as she basically learns about emotions and emoting said emotions. And so this really was that, not just an explosion of the true power of her powers, but it was also that huge range of emotions. And I think you mentioned the scene with Papa there, and I think a lot of credit, or a lot of equal an equal amount of credit has to go to Matthew Modine for making you feel sympathy for this character that has been such a bad guy or been that set up in that antagonist role since the very beginning. And so I thought he brought a heck of a lot there to his last few scenes on the show. And then that whole climax there in the desert with the chopper and everything, that was just for me, that was the peak of Eleven's sort of story here. I don't think we've seen her true face off with Vecna at all yet, right? And so I think that was sort of the peak of her story in this season. And so I thought it was really big stuff there.
The helicopter was this season's equivalent of the car or the van when she flips the van in season 1. This was the equivalent to that for me. It was absolutely incredible.
And I don't see people complaining like when Darth Vader did it, 11 gets a free pass, apparently.
Yeah.
Nate, you brought up Lucas's performance with Max. And I also I like the sort of 1-2 punch that we get with that. We get Lucas, and I think we get Dustin, Gaten Matarazzo, who gives a very emotional performance as he experiences his own personal loss through these events. And Dustin's final words to Eddie definitely had me. But seeing that juxtaposed with what Lucas was going through at that same moment with Max, I think it sets up what the two are going to share going into season 5 and the loss and what that looks like in a post-traumatic way. So I thought that was great. But Nancy Wheeler,
dude,
so badass. She brought it yet again. She literally was the leader.
Sarah Connor energy.
Yeah,
there.
dude.
Yeah.
I loved it. I feel like that's like she's very much been that character throughout all the other seasons. She's the one who puts herself in front of the threat. Like she wants to get ahead of it and she wants to investigate and get to the center of it. And she's not scared to get her hands dirty, and very much shows here. And I think even more so, she really does show her sense of leadership. She has through other things, but here they're looking to her for the answers more so than because no one else is around, and she definitely has very much a grasp on the situation. So I thought she did a fantastic job. And then, of course, the last person would be Vecna, played by Jamie Campbell Bower. He was absolutely fantastic. And out of the suit, we saw a lot more of that villainous Joker-esque style to his portrayal. There was such a depth of his acting that was so well done in Volume 1 that gave his character so much more meaning. Then you juxtapose that when he is Vecna in the prosthetics. Really, the prosthetics took it from there.
And I believe I read somewhere recently that he would approach Millie Bobby Brown on set in full costume, and she would just freak out in tears, like just absolutely terrifying. I mean,
that's the stuff that look is the stuff that nightmares are made of, man. Like that thing is 100%, terrifying.
100%.
Oh yeah, they definitely went with like actual prosthetics for that, just to elicit some really like true reactions. And plus, it would affect how he moves for sure. Like he's probably wearing like 30 pounds of silicone and latex there when he's walking around. So that would definitely bring out something inside him, make him even more inhuman, which is really cool.
Well, he did the voice. Right. So I've seen some behind the scenes of him doing the voice, which I think is the voice itself was demonic. But again, when he's in this prosthetic, it's crazy how the look of it is more intimidating over the performance because like his face is still there. But I didn't think that it was actually him because at a certain point, you think, again, the prosthetics are really driving the force of creating this terror. We've seen who Henry was and we see the great performances from Jamie. But when he actually becomes Vecna, that nightmarish style to his prosthetics was like the driving force of terror that defined Vecna, in my opinion. And they did such a good job with bringing that to life.
I love that it was prosthetics because it fits the genre, right? Like we're talking about these
100%.
This series that's based on all these movies where the villain would have been made of prosthetics. So I thought that was so perfect.
It pays homage to all those 80s special effects artists who did things like, The Thing and Terminator, all those physical effects to keep it like that. Just a huge shout out to Barry Gower, or Gower, I'm not sure, Gower, but he's on a roll lately. He did the Green Knight. He did the Night King from Game of Thrones, and then did Vecna here. But I had made a comment when we did the first part that I thought that character was being voiced by Robert Englund. And I guess it's not. It's all done by the actor, and it's such a good tribute to Robert Englund's Freddy Krueger. It's such a Freddy Krueger sort of performance in terms of his voice and everything. He does a great job of sort of paying tribute to that. I was convinced it was the man himself.
Yeah, no, definitely. That voice, you're gonna hear it if you head to. I think Universal Studios around in Hollywood they're doing another Stranger Things event around Halloween, so I'm sure his voice is going to be all over the place for that.
Just come by my house when I'm getting out of bed. I sound like that when I'm grunting and groaning and getting up.
It's the same thing. Kevno is gonna get you. He's just gonna be like, it's time. But
Kevno.
Like, speaking of how scary Vecna was, let's talk about, like, I think this season amped up the scariness and the horrifying moments. I want to know, guys, what would you say in this season, either Volume 1 or Volume 2, what was the scariest moment that you experienced in this show?
Yeah, well, there's a ton. You're absolutely right, and I think there's one that we were talking about offline, even after Volume 1, which was the death of Chrissy in Episode 1. It was some of the scariest shit that we've seen in this series so far. So yeah, that would definitely had me like in that moment.
I know, that was mine too. Yeah. Kevin, what did you think of the moment with Eddie and Chrissy? Like, that was horrifying.
I just think it's because it was so much more graphic and violent than anything we'd ever seen on the show.
Yeah,
so because
it was
you weren't
a punch.
expecting it, a possession here, a possession there, we're used to that stuff. And then the limbs start snapping and the eyes start bleeding. Like, it was the perfect amount of just amping it up to that next level to get even, older people, older audiences who aren't scared by much, that just because of how different it was. So, but imagine being a younger viewer. They're going to get their socks rocked off here. I can't wait to hear that.
It's imagery that's burnt into your mind, right? Like, I can still see it, and I'm like, Chrissy, wake up! And dude, it was just... Like, again, the bleeding from her eyes. But again, I want to say shout out to the Foley artist. I didn't quite get the name for whoever did the Foley for that episode, but the bones crunching, dude. Like, I can't unhear the bones crunching. And that happened a few times this season that we got to see these horrific moments. And yeah, I definitely think the Vecna death, killings are probably, for me as well, terrifying. Those scary moments.
Yes, those were scary too, and I was trying to be original when I saw this question, and I think one of the standout moments in terms of spook factor was definitely the first reveal of Robert Englund's character when he turns around and you just see the stitched up eyes and like this the immediate terror that you feel from this man who's lost everything. Yeah, that definitely was a chilling moment the first time I was watching it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, leave it up to the King of Fright to be, come at you with that imagery. Absolutely fantastic.
And even just bringing Billy back as a weapon.
My gosh.
And so now he's not even just, her poor brother being possessed. It's like he's not even there. So it's just a pure weapon to strike, to manipulate her fear. I thought that was super scary because the guy does such a great job in that role. Dacre, is that what it is?
Yeah,
Dacre Montgomery. So it was awesome to see him back because I just thought he was really the standout of season 3. But yeah, to bring him back as an even scarier somehow weapon here against Max was dope.
Absolutely nuts. When he's banging on the door and she runs up to it, and I gotta kind of follow up as well. If we're gonna talk about that moment with Max, the sequence with Lucas when he turns to her and he just starts freaking out. He's like you wanted to kill your brother, and like I was totally in at that moment. Like, Lucas, no, like you have to understand. Like, calm down, it's okay. And he just starts going scarier and like deeper voice, and then the eyes on him going completely white. I was just that was freaky. I love how they sort of snuck that in and revealed that as a slow burn was so scary. Obviously, I kind of want to take a moment and lighten the mood a little bit. Let's talk about how funny a lot of this season was, I think there are a lot of phenomenal moments amongst, I think, a lot of the different characters. What were some of the funniest moments for you?
Well, I enjoyed a lot of the Yuri scenes. I mean, the peanut butter smuggler to me is just such a stupid character, and everything out of his mouth was just making me smirk and smile. So, like, yeah, definitely enjoyed seeing him spend time on screen, especially with Murray going back and forth. A lot of fun there, in my opinion.
The Murray and Yuri switch around, especially when Murray was acting as Yuri, was so good.
Yeah, Murray was great. I think he was like, again, there's the comedy is kind of sprinkled throughout each of these stories. A lot of stuff, obviously, with Argyle. Like Argyle was dope throughout this entire 2 volumes. So, and obviously the moment that when he's the guy that comes up with the plan for, making a bath for Elle.
I just loved, dude, when he walks into the Surfer Dude Pizza restaurant, I just loved how the other surfer boy, whatever his name, he was just like, oh, sweet shirt, dude. Like, he was so impressed by the fact that someone else worked for the same pizza joint. And I love how baked he was in that moment. His eyes are so glazed over. I think he was an absolute delight to add to this season, and I'm so happy that I think we're going to get to see him again in the final season. But I do think it was a little scary considering he drove them all in the van, and you got to know he was super high on Purple Palm Tree Delight that entire time.
You saw the desert roads they were on. There's no one out there.
Yeah, I guess it's fine.
It was a flat desert road.
He picked the right roads. And I will say, it wasn't even necessarily any specific line of dialogue that just made me love this guy. It was almost when he wasn't talking. It was just the way he was just totally okay with everything. Like, even Max has been around for 3 seasons, and when Elle tells her she's piggybacked in, she's like, what are you talking about? But Argyle's like, whatever, man. Let's just do. I believe everything you're telling me. I am so on board. He's just sitting there watching 11 in the tub, yeah, man.
Dude,
look at
the best thing
Supergirl go.
He's making a pizza because he's clearly got the munchies. So they're all
that's
like,
I know.
They're all saving the world, and he's like, all right, I'm going to make a pizza, dude.
You
like,
can't
that's what I do.
save the world on an empty stomach, man.
That's true.
That's what he was
That's
thinking.
That's what he said.
He was looking out for the group.
I hope we see him in season 5, because I want to know if he actually ends up having a relationship with Susie's sister.
Oh yeah, in the back of
volume 1 when they go to the house, and they're smoking in the back of the van. But yeah, I think the other characters remained fairly serious. The OG characters were fairly serious throughout.
I will say
this.
There's a trending moment with Max and Dustin that I go back and I've rewatched a few times on the TikToks and what have you, of just her being so excited about D&D and his D&D club. She's like, yeah, really? And what about that cool shirt? And he's just like, you're being sarcastic. And she just rides away. It's so good. Just absolutely phenomenal. Poor Dustin in that moment, dude. But I did want to bring it back now that we've had a chance to be afraid and laugh a little bit. Obviously we talked about the performances of all this cast already. I want to know, did you cry at any point in time in Volume 2? And if so, when did you cry?
I'd like to redirect this question to you. When did you cry in this series?
I just was
when
crying.
Weren't you crying?
When wasn't I crying? Yes, there was a brief moment at the Surfer Boy Pizza Shop that I was crying of laughter, so I guess I was still crying. I will say, and I know it's me jumping to the end, which I hate to do, but the waterworks, when Hopper walks through the door and Elle says, I left the door open 3 inches. It got me, dude. It got me so much. That's her real papa. I love how she jokes with him. I love the callback to the bitchin' line, and he just holds her so tight. I never want them to split up ever again. I don't want them to ever be in a separate room ever again. I absolutely loved that moment. I thought it was phenomenal.
Eddie's death definitely got me choked up. Dude. That's for sure. I loved Eddie this whole season, and it just... he didn't run away, and it was such a good moment. And then even further was, like you mentioned earlier, Dustin telling his uncle about what happened, and it's just there's no justice for Eddie. They still think he's this serial cult worshiper, mass murderer type thing.
They're still graffitiing the.
I was hoping we get some sort of Hopper type thing where everyone knows Hopper died a hero in the last season.
Right.
And this one, no, Eddie died the murderer that he is, and only Dustin knows what he did.
Well,
you know,
Dustin, and more
in the
importantly,
group.
his uncle now.
Yes,
I think,
yeah.
and I think that was the most important resolution. Whether or
His
not
uncle
the
got
whole world
closure at
knew,
least, yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
important.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of teary moments throughout the last part of this volume, episode 9, the finale, and I think that you mentioned a few of them. Lucas was 100% when he was losing it. It was so raw, it was so real.
Yeah.
I was crying because I just could feel the commitment that he had to the character in that moment and doing that performance. And the same with Dustin in both instances of saying bye to Eddie and actually confronting his uncle and letting him know what actually went down. And then I think the ending with Ellen Hopper, definitely that was a reunion that I think everyone wanted, right?
Yeah.
And it was so great to see, you know, the closure that she got through this season with her papa, right? And
Yeah.
you know, understanding who her real papa is, as you said. I think that is a very central thing, and it's great that they're at the end here. We're getting all of them coming together, right? So very, very emotional moment.
There was definitely moments. I think for me, the one character who I found to have the saddest journey in this whole section, this whole season, if you will, the most emotional was definitely for Will, and what he lost, because he truly lost something. And he's all alone in dealing with it. Everybody else seems to have somebody that they can rely on in their moments. And so finally, when Jonathan, figured out how to bring it up to talk to his brother as he's recognizing what's going on their journey here, I thought that was, for me, the most powerful, because it didn't have anything to do with the supernatural. It was the realest, just most human thing going on in the series. And so I thought that was handled really, really well. I think the moments with Max and Lucas, I think there's still just so much up in the air. I don't know how to process those moments yet. We still have to wait to find out. I think Elle and Hopper getting back together was so great, but if I may just even it's almost one of the things that I think didn't work so well for me this season.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, let's get into that. I wanted to ask you guys, what about either this season entirely or Volume 2 didn't work for you? Obviously, we're praising this show so much. We love it to death, and especially this season. But what didn't work? What do you think could have been improved a little bit more for Season 5?
I think very much like the first part of the season. It's really nitpicking. It feels like nitpicking to really criticize anything. But I would say, I think knowing that Hopper was alive going into this season was a bad move. And I think where it really suffered was they needed to fill in the first 5 or 6 episodes of this season with his story. If this was just a case of Joyce getting weird messages from somebody and trying to figure out what they meant for the first few episodes, and then maybe halfway through the season we get the shock that Hopper's still alive, and then it's just a few more episodes of him battling to get out of this prison so he can get back. I just think the pacing of that specific story alone kind of drew out some of the emotion and power that it could have had. If we didn't know he was alive as an audience, I just that part really sort of, I think, took away a lot of the sting that it could have had. But again, they somehow in that last episode made it so exciting and so action packed that the storyline itself was justified. It was great. The stuff at the prison over those last 2 episodes was terrific. I just think had they found a different way to tell that story throughout the 9 episodes, it would have resonated a bit more for me.
Yeah, I think a lot of what didn't work for me is about sort of, I think I was saying at the top, release strategy, and that is a result of pacing and how the story is kind of told over these 2 volumes. I think this could have still been an event, but I wish they had evaluated the weight of Volume 1 to Volume 2, because, again, we've talked about the pacing issues in Volume 1 and how some stories just kind of fall off and others get pushed forward. Here in Volume 2, we see everything just kind of rush to an end. But that being said, I think that the first volume does a really good job of setting the stakes, and then volume 2 coming in and just, knocking that out of the park in its entirety. But I think, just how they could have told the story and maybe shifted some of the episodes, because like release strategy is a big thing. Like it didn't hurt them, obviously, to drop these in 2-volume sets, because people are still talking about it.
Yeah.
So there's excitement around it, and it built that momentum of an event. So I totally get it. But yeah, maybe there's another way to do it.
I will say, and they've already come out on the record and said for season 5 they won't be going weekly. I think they kind of were talking about that and addressing that, and they will be doing. I don't know if they're going to again drop it in volumes, which is fine. I do think it would have been great if we got maybe the. I mean, episode 9's a movie. Let's all just put it out there. It's a movie. I think it would have been great if we got the movie maybe as your volume 2. So go to episode 8, have a good cliffhanger moment in episode 8, and then
go to the theaters.
Yes, dude, I wanted to see it so bad in a movie theater. I think it would have been so cool, right?
That would have been a better release strategy.
Theme it as the Upside Down has broken into your local movie theater. I think it would have been really cool. But I will say, for as much time as we got to spend with these characters, I do think there are some moments that do feel like, Kevin, like you were saying, they were stretched out. And I think that's actually because of an element that is ultimately, I think, one of the best aspects about this season, but can hinder it at the same time, which is that it's so tricky to manage a cast like this. And I think for the most part, they did a great job of pairing the right characters in the right moments, in the right places. Yeah. But I think the amount of time that it takes to cut between sort of these 3 groups of characters, especially in this finale, where it's like, it could be like they could be getting engaged into one specific moment, but then we don't get to come back to that for like 15 minutes, right? And you're kind of like, the timing is off. You're kind of like, I don't, as an audience, it's like, okay, is this happening all at the same time? Is it happening in the sequence that we're seeing it? So I think that can add to the feeling of that overall bloat, and I think that's kind of a dangerous thing when you've got such a large cast. I think they did the best that they could with what they had, but we also see some characters, like we were saying, put on the sidelines, right? Like I think Will and Mike, and especially Jonathan, this season, I think, was put into autopilot in the middle of the season. I think at the very beginning with some of the stuff with Nancy and Jonathan, I thought that was a good start off with that character. The only thing I can possibly think of to sort of defend the reasoning of... Oh, Siri wants to weigh in with her opinion. The only reason I can think of as far as to why maybe Jonathan was sort of put to the side a little bit was to emphasize the fact that, his character was distant from Will, right? So that when they did have that beautiful moment together, as an audience, you sort of felt like, oh yeah, I don't think I've really seen you that much either, Jonathan, this entire time. So that's the only thing I can sort of think of. But I just sort of felt like, I don't know, I felt like, we did sort of lose a little bit of the California crew throughout this season.
What just annoys me too is that they set up this whole relationship troubles between Nancy and Jonathan, and they don't really address it once they get the reunion.
Yeah, totally.
He just kind of he hides it again, and so he's still running away from that aspect. So
exactly,
I feel like there was not enough time spent on his character, and we got that beautiful moment between him and his brother, but that was really all I could recall of his character throughout the season, other than being the driver for them. So
right,
it was a bit disappointing, and like I said earlier, like a lot of Volume 7, I was like, why are we going back to this storyline? It's like they're still just driving through the desert or whatever. So it was, again, there's payoff in the finale, but there was questioning up until the release of Volume 2.
Oh, I totally agree. I think the whole validation of their story is in Volume 2, right? And and the purpose that they actually serve. But what's really cool too is that they found a way to effectively show everyone being a part of this plan, but away from each other. Yeah. Right. And I think that was very much what they were trying to do by having all of these stories kind of taking place. But they are 100% off balance. And I think just even the emotional payoff for Will and Jonathan in Volume 2 validates the rest of what has happened in Volume 1 and, given them that sort of punch that their characters need to kick them over into Season 5.
Well, I will just say, because I did mention it sort of towards the top of the program, I do think that, bringing in another amazing character that everybody on the planet watching the show fell in love with, and then killing them again. It just feels a bit, cyclical at this point. They've done it for the last 3 seasons in a row, or at least 2 of the last 3 seasons.
Yeah, it's almost a theme at this point. I mean, Sean Astin, I think
Sean Astin was
right?
season 2, right? And he was so incredible, and for them to take him away, and I just think, again, the stories they're telling with the main characters are all important in their own ways. So I'm not saying that it would be easy to just replace a boring of the regulars with a more interesting or dynamic characters. But, the fact that none of our main characters, they all seem to be safe no matter what happens. I mean, the one group is getting strangled by vines for like 25 minutes and they didn't die.
Right. At least that's what it feels like, right? Because we move away.
Because of the way they had to keep going back and tell it. Yes, obviously, I don't think the intention was that they were actually being choked out for that long.
Yeah.
But it's just, to take away a character like Eddie was so, even giving him a great way to go, I wanted so much more from this character. I wanted to see so much more from him. So it's just sad that, and then again, even Max, we see her up there. She's getting broken in half. We know what the outcome of this is, and even she doesn't quite go yet. Who knows what the future is for the character, but they're all safe no matter what. And it's just like they've been through a lot. We'd have lost one of them by now.
Yeah, and I think I will say, I think by this point it would have made sense to see the loss of a major character in of our main cast, but I will say, Eduardo Franco, dude. That's Argyle. Joseph Quinn. I've just still got Argyle on the mind, my dude. Joseph Quinn was just from the moment the first sequence with him that you see him, he's so captivating.
Yeah.
I just thought his performance was absolutely outstanding. And yeah, dude, I will say, I was like, when he starts running back, I'm like, listen, I get what you're doing with the idea that he doesn't run away. I get that. Don't do it. Don't do it. I want him to stay alive so bad. And I think for Dustin, I think he was the, I think Eddie was the Steve for Dustin this season. So, with it'll be interesting. I'm wondering if maybe in season 5, if we get more of a relationship again between Dustin and Steve now that Eddie is gone. Because I think Steve's whole thing this season was to do with Robin. And I think that dynamic was excellent. I loved in the car with the boobies. I thought that was phenomenal as another great funny moment. But I think there was so much focus between those two characters, and then near the end with him and Nancy. I would love to see them reconnect now that Eddie's gone, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, for sure. I totally agree. I don't think it was great to have killed off another beloved character who we were just introduced to at the beginning of this season with Eddie's demise. But I do think that this sets up an emotional stakes for Dustin going into season 5. I think it's going to have importance to him as he carries that through on the final chapter. But pointing out Steve. Steve is hugely important to Dustin, but I think Eddie was far more important to Dustin in the sense that I think he saw a lot of himself in Eddie, more so than he did in Steve. They had a lot in common. So
they were both outcasts, so that they bonded over that. Where Steve was the jock who fit in with everyone and was popular. So they got along, but they don't come from the same world. I think it's interesting because the whole Eddie dying, I think, could potentially set up for some very, cruel mind tricks from Vecna if we see him return.
Oh, gosh.
He could use the death of Eddie to play with Dustin and just completely break the kid, I think. So,
jeez.
Yeah,
again,
because even with all of these,
but it does set up a lot with his death.
With all of these characters that we've seen throughout all of these seasons that we enjoy and that they die, they've meant something to someone else that is a part of this larger story.
Yes.
And I think it's very likely that we could see Sean Astin or some of these dead characters come back in the final season as part of Vecna kind of getting at each of these characters.
All of them. He just that's terrifying. Well, listen, that sounds like a terrifying moment that has yet to happen. I want to kind of get to what our favorite moment of either this volume or this season, whatever we want to do. What was your favorite moment? You're only allowed to pick one. I know it's tough. You're only allowed to pick one. What was your favorite moment?
Thank you for stipulating that.
This season. Darcy, go for it.
I want to go first before anyone steals it. Obviously, Eddie shredding to Master of Puppets.
Dude.
That was such an epic scene, and I've been, like I said, I was waiting for it since that trailer dropped, and it lived up to it and everything. Such a good song, and so it fit so much of what was going on with the series too. Is that like they were all Vecna's puppets, these bats, and he was just starting to become the master of them. It fits so well. I loved it,
dude. The hammer-ons, the hammer-offs that he was
nailed
doing.
it too.
Dude,
Completely
absolutely
shredded.
incredible. I love that moment as well, and I just have to say, as soon as they get back, I love how literally hell is raining down upon them, and as soon as they get back inside, they're like, "It was so metal!" Like they were so excited about what just transpired, even though they're like literally about to die. So
They
good.
literally just survived the most epic metal music video of all time. Like, yeah, what a great moment. And like, that's the kind of thing that, if you described it without seeing it and not enough context, that could go the complete other way and just be
Totally.
really dumb, cheesy, bad. And it was all of the good things. It was fun and awesome and epic. Like, that's a stand up and fist pump moment, 100%. And like, there's so many great moments like that, huge, big moments that I could bring up right now. But I'll stick with Eddie and go for something on the complete opposite end, a really soft, human moment. It was the interaction between him and Chrissy in the first episode when she's
forest,
looking to buy drugs, and just their interaction in the forest is so amazing because Eddie is nothing like people have him pigeonholed as, and you get to see Chrissy just suffering so much more, but nobody taking the time, I'm sure, in her life. She's just the pretty popular girl, and so everything's perfect for her, and it's just quite the opposite. And their connection was just so real and so good in that moment. And I've even seen the producers or the writers have come out and said, had we known they were going to have such good chemistry on screen, we would have found a way to give them a few more moments before doing what they did, because it was just the very next scene basically where the shit got real and the horror, was coming right at you. So it was almost that calm before the storm of just such a beautiful, sweet little human moment. It was awesome.
I love that. Justin.
Yeah, I would say the Kate Bush moment with Max running back, the music, the way they cut it together, just how they built into the moment, and then the music just kind of carried it. I thought it was really empowering and very touching. She's running back to her friends. I think they really hit how this group of friends are they're just so loving to each other. They care about each other, and that was really with the music and knowing that that was her saving grace. So I thought it just kind of summarized really well what Stranger Things at its core is really about.
Totally. And as I said, like, that one got me teared up in volume 1. I think, her just the way that they build the music up and it's all you can hear, which is perfect because that's all she can hear. Phenomenal. For me, I'm going to say it's got to be Nancy, Robin, and Steve going up against Vecna in slow motion. That angle, that shot of the three of them and just they're tossing Molotov cocktails and shooting with a sawed-off shotgun, dude. Like, absolutely. If Mondo isn't already working on a poster for that, please do. I want it in my home because phenomenal. I think getting to see that, how it cuts between them and then Hopper with the sword going, he's slicing up the dude. He's absolutely incredible. I was like, why does he have a sword? I don't care. I think that was a phenomenal way they cut back and forth between that moment. And yeah, man, I think, honestly, Nancy with a gun is my party leader any day of the week. Any day of the week.
Sure.
Give Nancy a gun and we'll be fine. We'll be totally fine. Absolutely.
I saw a great GIF meme, and it was just this little girl running to grab a gun from a drawer, and it was Nancy in every season of Stranger Things. Like, she's just like, I know where guns are. Let's go, guys. Okay, but you mentioned something, and I did want to ask that because I thought, maybe I missed something, but I'm not going back. How did I miss where a sword came from in the Russian prison?
Yes.
So that's when they were getting all the prisoners to fight the Demogorgon at first. They said,
And so
grab
one
the
of them
weapons.
must have just had that.
And so one of them was a sword, and then they died. And of course, they haven't had a chance to clean up the bodies
Yes,
from that
perfect. Okay, that does make
point.
sense.
So yeah,
But it's so perfect because it's literally it's a D&D fight.
Absolutely.
That he just rolled a natural 20 on his double attack there.
Natural
It was perfect.
20 and chop that head off, dude. Absolutely incredible. Okay, listen, we are we're hitting our 1 hour mark. I think the next group wants to come in and record their spoiler filled review. Hold on, guys, we'll get to you in a moment. But listen, I wanted to get to our final thoughts, and we're gonna do something kind of new that we haven't really done on the podcast before. I want us to rank the seasons of the show, going from last to first. I think that would be really fun just to hear what you guys' impressions are of where this season falls within the 4 seasons that we've gotten so far. But before you do that, I want to hear your rating for this volume 2 on the scales of 1 to 5 delicious surfer boy pizzas.
Well, I really enjoyed this volume. Like I said, I watched it all in one sitting, and I found it hard to stop because I just wanted more and more. And there was so much justification paid off to all these storylines that they had set up that first watching them, I felt kind of let down by them. But again, seeing what the payoff was, I feel like the journey was totally worth it. And again, that's just a credit to these 2 episodes, just tying off those journeys and everything so beautifully. Again, lots of wicked moments with all the characters. I think we could spend another hour talking about more scenes and more favorite things. But just the writing and everything in this series seems to be building up to just a really cool story, and that's what I've felt with every season. So definitely definitely going to be probably, I'm going to give it 4.8 out of 5 delicious Surfer Boy pizzas for volume 2, because there were things that irked me a bit still, but everything was just so well done that I thoroughly enjoyed those 4 hours.
Very dope. And your ranking, how would you rank it? Where does it fall on?
Ranking, yeah.
Yeah.
Overall seasons, again, it's been a while since I've watched them, but I feel like the way that they keep building upon this story, where we first thought it was just, this spooky underworld, and then, there's a bigger monster from the underworld, and it keeps growing. I feel like my ranking for the seasons are very much like that, where like the characters or the actors are all growing with these characters and delivering such powerful performances as they go on, that it's definitely a 1, 2, 3, 4 in my books, because again, they've grown with the characters, and the story has become so much more like rich and unique. So yeah, definitely a 1, 2, 3, 4 ranking in my book.
All right, so 4 being at the top is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I love 4 was such a great combination and setup for what's coming next. So
nice. All right, dope. Justin, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think Volume 2 100% delivered on what Volume 1 set up, and that was this epic showdown with elevated stakes. It felt huge, not just because of each episode's length, but because of the scale of the action and the visual effects. It really does push the series into cinematic territories, which is something we've seen throughout the series. It's naturally scaling up. And I think this also goes for the acting. Each of the kids, as we were mentioning before, had a moment to shine in this, and you really do see how they've grown up and commit to their character's portrayal. So I think this season proves that, the Duffer Brothers can still be fresh with their approach while keeping things familiar and scaling things up and making for a more compelling story, and, with characters that we know and love. And I think that the ending of this volume definitely sets up some huge stakes for season 5 and its final season. With all the OG characters back in Hawkins, I think it's going to be pretty dope to see how, they've come together. They're all in Hawkins, and there's this new shit that's taken place now with the Upside Down. So it'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds. So I think, again, it's top tier. I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5 delicious Surfer Boy pizzas. As for ranking, I think Darcy said it best. Yeah. The series hasn't really missed a mark. It's been a 1, 2, 3, 4 scale up. And yes, I think this is the best season of Stranger Things. So it would be my number 1.
Cool. Kevin, what about yourself, my dude?
Yeah, I mean, the 2 gentlemen before me said it best. I mean, I know for myself, watching those 9.5 hours, whatever it was, for the first 7 episodes in part 1 there, I thought, man, they're really just stretching this thing a bit long. And then to see the runtime of these 2 episodes for part 2, I thought, man, how could they possibly have this much story to tell here? And every second was filled and executed perfectly. I thought the pacing on this 2-episode arc versus the first 7 was just so incredible. It was worth the journey getting here. It was worth being as long as it was to tell these stories. And it's all about making these characters that we care so much about, be it our original OG characters or these new characters that they keep bringing in and taking away from us. The strength of this show is making characters, and not just 1 or 2, but 9 or 10 of them that we love to see, that we want to see more of. I mean, I love that. That was my complaint in the first half. It was, I wanted to just see more of these characters as well. And here, everybody got their time to shine. Everybody got to be there, and everything that they'd gone through felt meaningful and felt important. And so, just such a job well done here. This is, for me, peak Stranger Things. This 2-episode just mega event, as we've been calling it, is just the best thing they've done. I honestly have no idea what they could possibly have in store to top it. I almost wonder if this wasn't the better place to sort of leave the story, leave these characters. It does feel like they could have been wrapping up things with the way they told these stories here, and so I just hope that going one more year is worth it, and that they can. I'm not saying they can't, because look at what they've done so far, but I am a little afraid that it just can't get better than this, because, again, this is peak Stranger Things. I'm going to give this a solid 5 out of 5. Tasty, sexy, tasty,
Delicious.
delicious delivery boys. A 5 out of 5.
Delivery boys.
It's pizza. They're talking about pizza, man.
I love it. No, don't change it.
Talking about Argyle.
Don't change it. Don't change it. Don't change a thing. His sexy long black hair. He gets all over that pizza, dude.
Guy's got the best hair on TV, man. 5 out of 5 for his hair. 5 out of 5 for the episode. And I'm not quite on the same page as the other two gentlemen, because while I do feel the stakes got bigger each season, I don't think the execution of the storytelling just consistently got better. I think for me, season 2 struggled the most. It was almost just a bit too much of a rehash of season 1. You had some clunker storylines like 11 going and finding the, look at how much better they did exploring a story of 11 interacting with other test subjects here than in that second season. I think the standout there is Bob, Sean Astin. He's amazing. But so season 2, definitely the weakest for me. It's tough to put season 3 above season 1 just because season 1 was so good that it started everything. It blew up the phenomenon. But no, I think just the way season 3 was able to use its characters and take 3 years of their experiences. And it was such a great 80s tribute with the malls and just I love the nostalgia of that season so much. So that would be my second favorite. But season 4, I wasn't sure it was going to get there, even though I loved so many elements of it. I was like, is this thing going to run its course? It was amazing. It was incredible. I'm just very nervous to see season 5 now.
Dude, we're gonna chat about that in just a second. But yeah, this is the best season of Stranger Things for me. I think Volume 1 and now Volume 2 has fully sealed it for me. I think it's just incredible. I think to see how polished this product has gotten, I think, to the degree that it is. Again, I went back and I just like for a brief moment after watching the finale, I kind of was like started watching episode 1 of season 1 again, and I was like, wow, look at where we came from, and it's just absolutely phenomenal how far they've come. I think the Duffer Brothers have put so much heart and love into every single frame of this show, which is really impressive given how many frames there are. I think the entire cast has just progressed in their performances, like we were saying. And I can't wait to see literally everyone in this cast in another like story or movie or show. Like I'm so excited now to see what they do for their future. I think is going to be awesome. I think, again, my heart was beating so fast throughout this finale. I do think it is long, but I think that was appropriate given how cinematic it was made to feel. Again, it was a movie. The whole season was so massive, so it needed an extra big finale. I don't think we needed certain sequences like we were talking about to be as drawn out or as long. As impressive as it was, I think they could have scaled down some aspects to it a little bit. But overall, it's such a fantastically produced show with incredible music and moments from this volume that will stick with me, I think, forever. As I'm in my salty bath. So I'm going to give this season, like Kevin, a 5 out of 5. I think it was absolutely incredible. 5 out of 5 sexy, what was it? Sexy boy? Sexy surfer
Sexy
boys?
delivery boys.
I'm going to give it the actual ranking of 5 out of 5 delicious surfer boy pies, or pizzas, whatever. Anyways, as for my ranking, I am going to actually change it up a little bit. I'm very close to Kevin. This is probably the closest that Kevin and I have ever been, except for that one time when we had to sleep in the same bed. I'm going to say from last to first, season 2 was the weakest for me. I loved season 3 so much with the mall stuff, but season 1 was lightning. It was so phenomenal. It took the entire world by storm. Not a single person that I know, for the most part, who has a Netflix subscription, they didn't watch it. Everyone's at least seen season 1, even if they didn't keep up with it. They've watched season 1, and so I think for me, I go season 2, season 3, season 1, and now season 4 is my favorite season of Stranger Things. Guys, we're running a little long here. But I did want to just, we brought it up kind of in our overall thoughts. How do they top this finale in general and this season? Like what do we think will happen next?
I was alluding to it before, but I think that Vecna's going to have free reign on all of the OG characters that are left in Hawkins that are helping Elle. He's going to have free reign, and I think Will's going to be really integral to that. Again, I feel like if this is the final season, it is going to very much stay focused, I think, on the core characters, kind of like how Endgame took that approach. It's just kind of like returning to the center of the story and kind of concluding there. I just wonder, though, now that Vecna is revealed to be the kind of keeper of everything, what's next? And do I understand it right? Like, did the Upside Down now just come into the real world? Is that what's happened?
I think that's it. The Upside. We were joking off air, Justin, saying like, "Dude, the Upside Down is now the right side up." So I think maybe they start calling it the right side up, or they just call it Hawkins. But I think, yeah, man, I think the idea of almost paying homage to a season 1 would be really cool, with Will sort of being the main sort of focus. I think would be really awesome now that 11 has she's concluded her stuff. You know what I mean? I think there's still more to do with her, but I think she's going to now be that superhero that Mike knows her as. And I think, yeah, man, I think that would be really, really cool if they could kind of find a way to, and I gotta ask, do you guys think like Vecna, he doesn't have a body anymore, right? He's just that smoke stuff now. He's just that dust. Like, I think he's just going to be like a disembodied voice. What do you think?
Well, Darce, when we were talking off air, you had kind of an interesting idea that I was like, oh, that's got potential.
Yeah, well, it had to do with the whole Sadie Sink's character, ending up brain dead basically at the end of it with masks.
Yeah.
And even 11 visiting her there, and there's nothing in her mindscape. It was just a black void. I think that is now going to be basically a vessel potentially for Vecna, because, I mean, he already had his fingers so deep in her mind, and now that the mind is clear, what's to say that he can't take that body further and do... Again, I think the next season will be a lot of mind games, like It level style, playing with each of the characters' fears and emotions and stuff like that. So... yeah, like I said, that's why I think we might see Eddie again as a spectral form that's taunting Dustin. Yeah. So again, it's going to be a very serious mind game for the next next season for sure.
I think a lot of the dead people that we've seen throughout all of the seasons are going to come back in season 5 and reprise a upside down version, or wherever it is, version of themselves, and that's gonna create for some terror, and it's really going to show how Vecna has his claws in all of them, and in their minds and their emotions. And even going so, because I was thinking, like, it would be really great if one of the friends becomes the villain, and she is obviously the perfect choice for that, because now she has to fight Vecna through her friend, and that's going to be a new emotional battle for her, I think.
That's crazy.
Because they really set up the importance of her relationship with Elle. Like even in some of those memory flashbacks, we see them together very much so. So I think that, you know, again, there's the groundwork that's been laid in this season 4 that could really feed into that well.
I also think that maybe season 5 will get more of a response from Mr. Wheeler, because world's gone to shit outside and he's still just watching the news like any other day, basically. He seems so unfazed.
Yeah, just get him and Argyle in a room, just smoking some Purple Palm Tree Delight together, and they're just going to have a wonderful time.
Well, and this is less of a prediction and more of a question, because if I'm not mistaken, I believe I read that season 5 will be taking place a few years down the road, or there will be. They did say that there's a time jump, right? And so I just don't understand how. I was surprised to see this season end with this next threat appearing like imminently. You know, I thought maybe you'd get a hint at what it might be, but not have the characters directly see it themselves. So I wonder how they get to that point where it's 2 years later, even though the threat seems like it's going to be right around the corner for these characters.
Well, it's interesting because we talked about the idea of, and I think a few people have, like, spin-offs for Stranger Things. And I'm wondering if a time jump for that, like, between the ending of where we left off and what we're going to come back to in season 5, if that's going to open up the gates, no pun intended, for some storylines to come in of, okay, like people in Hawkins, different people in Hawkins discovering what the Upside Down is now that they're sort of forced to. Do we follow another group of friends that has to deal with the outcome of that moment in Hawkins? Because I do think it is like an endgame level situation where there's no way that we're gonna get to the point
coming back
where they don't know what's going on throughout the entire town of Hawkins. And I'm wondering if like that would be even cool if there was a way that we could get redemption for Eddie in that moment of everyone sort of realizing, okay, this is actually what was going on. And I think it's going to be really fantastic. My biggest request is that they do put the series finale in movie theaters. Make it a fan event like they did for Obi-Wan in Toronto. I think it would be incredible. They've done pop-up events all over the world, and a lot of the times in San Diego. I think, dude, I want to watch this with a buttload of people all in a movie theater cheering and clapping and crying as we see 11 die. I think 11's going to die.
I think
in the end, I do think we're going to lose her. I think that's going to be the case.
I agree. I also think though that they need to do a theater release for it. Like, it's such a missed opportunity that they didn't do it here with this to at least set the stage for a season 5 finale in the case, because you're at like 8 episodes, volume 1. Go see volume 2 when it hits theaters July 1st, right? You know people are going to put their asses in that theater,
dude,
to see that movie.
Imagine
right?
how much more
because
money that they would make.
I don't understand it.
Merch.
That's a good release strategy. That's a unique release strategy to Netflix. You've built the fandom.
Yeah.
Go see the final act of the story in theaters. It's so smart.
When you go and create a 2.5-hour long TV show with the kind of budget they had, with everything that happened, it was a movie, and it is a shame that they didn't have a way to get that on a big screen for people to see.
Did you guys get the vibe though that as the final moments are happening and they're like driving through Hawkins and you see all this destruction, like, could you see the Upside Down? It wasn't until they get to this hill and then they start to see the Upside Down really manifest itself. So I was kind of confused at that point, because then I was like, oh, okay, so the Upside Down has turned into the right side up. The right side up, dude.
My dude.
Yeah, dude.
I feel like it's just a more massive and more permanent gate, basically. I'm not sure if like the Upside Down is coming through, like, you know, the tendrils are grabbing houses or anything like that. I think it's more anything can come through there, like
it's a gate.
bats.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that if we do get a time jump, I think it's reasonable to think that Vecna's, you know, licking his wounds and coming up with the ultimate plan, because I feel like a lot of what happened to him was because he got cocky. Like he thought he was the ultimate being, when clearly there's more to it than that. So I wouldn't be surprised if that is why there is a time jump or delay while they're, you know, monitoring the situation. People are figuring out what this Upside Down is, that he's slowly, you know, piecing himself back together, getting ready for the big fight again.
And I love the idea that if he no longer does have a body, like you were saying, Darce, like, maybe the way that, because his weakness ultimately in the end was being connected, was being the hive mind. That was his weakness, the fact that they could be chopping up demigorgons in Russia and yet he's still affected by it. I think he needs to find a way to, not have that happen anymore, not be connected to the overall, everything around him, and just maybe be this spiritual force inside Max's mind space. And that's maybe the main place that they're battling.
Yeah.
Dude, phenomenal. I cannot wait. I hope it doesn't take another 3 years. I hope they're already working on it. I really want to see the resolution to this as soon as possible. Is there anything else you guys wanted to quickly say before we wrap up?
Nah, dude.
My dude. All right, my dude. Well, that is it for this spoiler review and discussion for Netflix's Stranger Things Season 4, Volume 2, and Season 4 in general. We hope you enjoyed hanging out with us. And if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts, if you haven't already. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts or your predictions for Stranger Things Season 5, Justin, can you let our listeners know which one of the 4 portals now ripped into Hawkins' ass cheeks they can travel through to reach us?
Well, they can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com, or on Twitter at geekcentricyt, or on Instagram at wearegeekcentric.
Keep in mind, we have a ton of other episodes covering the latest and greatest in shows and movies out now. If you enjoy Netflix content, I mean, The Man from Toronto is out on Netflix. We did a spoiler-free review for that. The Sea Beast, which is out in theaters right now in Canada, is going to be on Netflix on July 8th, which is a phenomenal, fantastic animated movie that we got a chance to check out.
It's fun.
If you love streaming stuff, obviously Disney Plus, Only Murders in the Building Season 2, episodes 1 to 6. Justin and I got a chance to sit down and talk about just how absolutely lovely and fantastic those episodes are. So definitely check out those reviews and keep your eyes peeled. We've got our Thor Love and Thunder spoiler-free review. It might be out now. It might not. Who knows? Definitely check the app. Darcy and Justin had a wonderful review that I actually, as of this recording, haven't heard yet. I can't wait to hear what they thought. We also have a ton of other interviews as well, like with Disney and Pixar's Lightyear director Angus MacLean, producer Galen Sussman, and composer Michael Giacchino. We interviewed the directors for episodes 1 and 6 of Miss Marvel, Adil and Bilal, and they got hyped with us just like we got hyped on this episode. And we most recently interviewed Obi-Wan Kenobi director Deborah Chow and frickin' Anakin Skywalker himself. Justin, I'm so jealous that you've now interacted with Hayden Christensen twice in your life. And you can learn about that if you check out the interview and kind of where the first time Justin met Hayden. And they also discuss a moment of Star Wars fatherhood that's just so lovely. So go give those episodes a listen and a 5-star review if you don't mind. Lastly, we've got our This Week in Geek episodes out now. We do them every single Wednesday. One of our more recent ones, we talked about, Marvel coming back to Hall H, a Jon Snow spin-off series. So definitely check out those as well. All right, listen, we've done it. Our campaign for now is completed. We got to come back to it at a later time. But half-orc barbarian Kevin, high elf paladin J-Law, and Kensei monk Darcy, the Swift. Thank you so much for joining me for this spoiler-filled review and discussion. And as we say, love ya.
Get home safe, guys.
Laters.
Peace.